Is there a problem, people?
Hey guys, Script Trooper here with another video, and Kathleen Kennedy is expected to retire this year for the 50 millionth time. We've been hearing this for years. I don't know if there's any credence to this. The only reason I'm even covering this is because it's in the Hollywood Reporter, which is generally pretty good. Whereas a lot of the other stuff about her retiring was coming from rumor sites and people like that. So this may be true. I was under the impression that she had said that she wanted to have a win before she left. Maybe she's viewing Andor Season 2 as the big win and is just anticipating it's going to be a big win, and therefore she's going to retire. Or Andor's not going to be, and it's going to be the same as it already was in the first season, and hardly anyone's going to watch it, and then it's not a big win and she's not going to retire. Either way, it's a no-win situation no matter what. We'll get into this. So she's expected to retire this year. And we're in February. So that means it could be December. It could be another basically 10, it could be 10 more months of this. It's indicative of just how messy and disorganized Lucasfilm is. What a disaster. What a total and complete disaster. And people say, well, George Lucas picked Kathleen Kennedy. He's the one who told Iger to hire. Yeah, and you're right. He is the one that said that. He believed that she could handle running this company because she was the logistics producer. Like, there's certain producers that do a lot of writing or they get involved in scripts and stuff like that. She didn't do that in the highlights of her career. Those were movies, and we'll get into that, but those were movies that were written by other people. She was doing logistics. She was making sure things were on budget. She was figuring out how to make sure scenes could be shot. There's still a big role there. I'm not saying there was nothing to do, but that's why George picked. He didn't pick her because she's a creative. Since she's gotten involved with that, look at the disasters we've seen. Look at Willow. What a disaster. Look at all the hiring and firing of directors and producers and writers, because they can't appease Kathleen Kennedy's supposed creative vision. So when people say, oh, well, George picked her, well, he didn't pick her to do this. He even said, this isn't my Star Wars anymore. Right? He said that. He said it's somebody else's. They're doing their thing. I have no control over it. So the idea that, oh, well, he wanted this. He wanted Star Wars to be under Kennedy and be a complete disaster. That's what he was hoping for. Like, guys, come on.
We were just discussing ideas of what to do with the new Prince Eric movie.
Put a chick in it. Make her gay.
After more than a decade in a galaxy far, far away, Kathy is charting a course towards retirement. I'm just happy to hear she's retiring. She's not going to pull a Joe Biden or like Pelosi or all these politicians that just never leave. What's the guy, the Republican guy? He's being wheeled around in a wheelchair. Mitch McConnell. Just go home, bro. You're worth tens of hundreds of millions of... What are you doing here? But they never leave. It's like Groundhog Day. It's like Bob.
You've turned a perfectly peaceful house into an insane asylum. Get out!
Why'd you need to kick Bob out of the house?
He's not gone. That's the whole point. He's never gone!
Is this some radical new therapy?
Anyways, the Lucasfilm boss has told associates that she plans to retire by the end of 2025. A source confirms to the Hollywood Reporter. So she got her awards, and now she's going to retire. What are the awards she got again? I don't even know. Representatives for Kennedy and Lucasfilm are not immediately available, blah, blah, blah. Kennedy joined in 2012 as co-chair alongside George Lucas, and a few months later took the reins after Disney paid $4 billion for the company and Lucas exited. And again, I think Lucas was good friends with her. Maybe he still is. And again, I think he thought logistically it made sense, and then she ran it into the ground. Which he wanted. He wanted her to do that. She relaunched the franchise, beginning with The Force Awakens, which grossed more than $2 billion and cost $1 billion with marketing and everything else. Disney released it's literally, it had like a $650 million budget without marketing. I mean, I could be wrong. I could be off on 10 or 20 million there, but it was around that after the fact, right? That's what Disney's been doing under Kennedy, is slowly releasing the budgets over years so people would think that it's profitable when it isn't. And that's what they're going to do with Andor. They're doing the 3 episodes per week thing so they can kind of twist the way that the viewership looks so it looks better than it actually is. Everything they do is gross. And I can see why she would be insecure when she's worked under these behemoth directors and writers that came up with the best ideas in Hollywood history. You know, Spielberg and Lucas and stuff. And so I can see why she'd be insecure. So she's like trying to prove herself. Anyways. So Disney released Star Wars film every year from 2015 to 2019, then took a pause following The Rise of Skywalker, which received a mixed response and earned just half of what Force Awakens had brought in just a few years earlier. It made $50 million. It made less than $20 million in China. It literally made $50 million. Look it up. It's a huge bomb. And that's what it made without knowing all the costs of marketing and stuff. If anything, it lost money. And they spent $4 billion on the franchise. What did The Last Jedi make? Like $300 million? Like for a Star Wars movie, that's horrible. Horrible. At Lucasfilm, Boss Kennedy held one of the most visible and scrutinized jobs in Hollywood, and it was not always smooth sailing. She fired, Chris Lord and Phil Miller as the directors of Solo in the middle of production. The film went on to be the first Star Wars movie to lose money. Yeah, that's when Ron Howard came on. Because they weren't doing what she wanted. She wants her creative vision, and she's not a creative. She's a logistic. She also sidelined Rogue One, a Star Wars story director, Gareth Edwards, replacing him with Tony Gilroy, who was brought on to oversee reshoots. It was a hit. I have my video, Rogue One problem. There's continuity issues. You guys, even just the construction of the Death Star, they screwed that up on the timeline. Nobody talks about it because everyone loves the movie. Other projects were promised that never materialized, such as Rian Johnson's trilogy, and another one overseen by Game of Thrones showrunners Benioff and Weiss. Yeah, she just goes through people. I don't even think this article brings up the Rogue Squadron that Jenkins walked away, because she's obviously very difficult to please script-wise, and she thinks she's a creative. Daisy Ridley's upcoming return to Star Wars has been languishing in development since being announced to fanfare almost 2 years ago. Yeah, and I think that's part of the reason she's retiring too. I don't think that movie's ever getting made. But even as Star Wars struggles to return to the big screen, the franchise found new life with The Mandalorian launching in 2019 along with the streaming service. It became a breakout hit, spawning multiple spin-offs, including critically acclaimed Andor that nobody watches, and multiple shows that failed to hit the zeitgeist and sparked worries for the diluting brand. Yeah, it sucks. It sucks. Never should have been any TV show, live action Star Wars, ever. The Mandalorian and Grogu, blah, 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 blah. Who cares? So this is where we get into the nitty gritty now, the storied career of Kennedy. And again, she was involved with a lot of movies that are really, really huge hits. Gremlins, directed by Joe Dante, written by Chris Columbus, and starring Zach Galligan. Never wrote a thing. In fact, when she got involved with the writing, when she took over Lucasfilm, it went into the tank with self-inserts and feminist agendas. Instead of just making good stories, she was more concerned with DEI. And I did a video a couple weeks ago about how all these white women she hired, all her buddies, to be, executives at Lucasfilm. And then one woman that gets fired is the black lady. Because DEI is not about that. It's about hiring who you want and not having to justify it. Because these people have no business being in the jobs they're in. Anyway, all these movies, she wasn't involved in writing anything. Chris Columbus was writing everything. Then it was George. Then or it was Zemeckis or Spielberg. She had nothing to do with the creative process other than helping them shoot their scenes, providing the necessary things they needed, as well as keeping things on budget, which is not a nothing, but it has nothing to do with. She didn't ever write a movie, right? Is what I'm saying. Like she didn't come up with an idea for a movie and then made it. She's never done that, ever. So these are all really amazing movies that she had literally nothing to do with the creativeness of them, other than, like I said, the logistical side of it, which is notable. But then when she took over Lucasfilm, I think my opinion is that she started to say the way she wanted things done and bringing in the DEI and everything. And she doesn't know how to write interesting stories. She just doesn't. Yeah, like none of these give her any writing credits whatsoever. Not a one. So this whole thing about Kathleen Kennedy and, you know, Jacob with his tweet, oh, now the YouTubers are gonna, all the insufferable YouTubers. No, we're telling the truth, Jacob. She did a crappy job. She had no business being involved in the creative side of things. She should have just ran the company. And when she had creatives that produced stuff that sucked, they should get removed. Right? She's focused so much on the creative and the DEI that she left Dave Filoni there, who's running Star Wars into the ground. Jon Favreau should have been fired too. Mando Season 3 failed. You don't let people stay when they fail if you're running a company. You get rid of them. That's what you're supposed to do. When Solo bombed, you get rid of everybody. But she doesn't get rid of them. Why? Because she's involved in the creative process. She's responsible for why those projects bombed. She's involved. Right? If she wasn't involved, she'd just fire everybody that did a crappy job. But she can't blame them when she's the one that's basically saying, do it this way or that's it. Right? So when somebody has a lot of yes men and they do what they're told, they don't want to get rid of them because you don't know if their replacement's going to be as good of a yes man. Look at all the people she had to fire that weren't yes men. Look at the Rey movie. What are we on, the 4th or 5th writer? Because they weren't yes men. So that's the issue. And Jacob can call me insufferable all he wants. All that to say, she was involved in some pretty major stuff. She did do a good job. She had a job to do before she became the head of Lucasfilm, and then everything went down the toilet. Everything. For all of George's projects, from Indiana Jones down the toilet, Star Wars down the toilet, Willow down the toilet. What else is there? It just, everything went down the toilet. Because she just doesn't know what she's doing in terms of the creative process. Like, when you look at her career, everything on this list is high end, pretty much. I've never even heard of this movie. Might be good, might be not, I don't know. But that's all she did post taking over Lucasfilm. This one apparently is kind of cute, but again, it's a Spielberg movie. Like, okay, now I'll go to producer. Most people would argue that almost every one of these movies is awesome. Until you get to when she took over Lucasfilm. And then it's just, people like this one, but it creates problems. And Mandalorian and Grogu started off well, and then became Adventures in Babysitting, and nobody cares anymore. And there you go, right? So, it's not a good thing. I'm just happy she's leaving, apparently. But this is what I'm going to end on. This is the final thing I'm going to say. Like, look at all this crap that she did. Like, what I'm going to say is this. Nothing is going to change, you guys. She will be replaced by somebody who's going to do exactly what she did. Because that's Disney's focus. As much as she loves the yes men, the executives at Disney love her because she's a yes man. Part of the reason she focused on a lot of those things was because that's what Disney focuses on.
But Mrs. Kennedy, Bambi's a baby deer.
Fuck baby deer, put a chick in it, make her gay!
Now they're starting to change a little bit now because they're hemorrhaging and their shareholders are ticked off. Like they got rid of that transgender kids episode of that show. What are you doing putting transgender kids and stuff? So they are changing slowly, very slowly. And maybe her leaving is part of that change. But make no mistake, whoever replaces her, maybe they'll be a little different. Maybe they won't be quite as into the social justice crap. But nothing is going to get erased. Anything anybody makes is still under the canon of Disney. Nothing changes. So this doesn't even really matter. You still have Luke as he is in The Last Jedi. That doesn't change. Does anyone really think that she's going to leave and Disney's going to allow somebody else to come in and say we're decanonizing everything that she did? Do you think they're really going to allow that? Because that would be the only way to fix it. If they did that, they could actually technically fix it. You can recast Leia and Han and people like that. It'd be difficult, but you could do it. You could recast Luke. It'd be difficult, but you could do it. They'd have to really do their research and really learn and really, but you could do it. But they're not going to do that. It's going to be more of the same drivel. And all of it is still technically, quote, canon. It's not my canon, but it is technically canon. That's what bugs everybody. So, interesting, but at the same time, not. And, I appreciate what she did, but she should have kept her nose out of the creative process because she's not good at that at all. Her ideas suck. Nobody likes them. The people she's hired, Filoni's ideas suck. Nobody likes them. And you got to acknowledge that, George brought Filoni on too. I think George just really was just almost willfully ignorant of some of these people. I don't know. You guys let me know in the comment section. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. It always helps the channel. Feel free to check anything else on my channel. Have yourselves a really good day.